Welcome back. I am so excited to see you here again for week 2 of the Endless Energy program. It's been so amazing interacting with you on Facebook, finding out about your big whys. If you haven't introduced yourself on Facebook yet, please get on there so we can support you. I want to know what your big whys are. I want you to keep your big why in focus at all times. Remember to set your intention in the morning and share on Facebook. Share what's working for you, what's not working for you. So offer help and guidance to other people and get help and guidance on the Facebook page. Remember that the most important thing that you need more of right now is energy. And I want to help you get there. So of course, you know, I'm Dr. Jen Landa. I'm an OBGYN and hormone specialist, and I am dedicated to helping you get your energy back. So I want to tell you I told you last time a little bit about my nickname in the gym, Powerhouse. And this time I want to share with you something even a little bit more personal. So check out this next picture. This is a sculpture hanging on the wall in my bedroom, and yes, it's me. My husband Adam, we had seen an artist that had done this type of work, and he was dying for me to do it. And so for his 50th birthday, we went and I got this sculpture done, and he immediately hung it on the wall when we got it. It's like a plaster cast of my body. And the reason I'm showing it to you is because I want you to know what is possible with this program. Now, I don't think I told you this yet, but I'm 45 years old. And this was done a couple of years ago, but so the point is that I am in better shape at 45 than I was at 25. I lost at least 5 or 6% body fat and have amazing energy, which I didn't have when I was 25 either. I told you my story about losing my spark, and that was no energy, no sex drive, felt frumpy and pudgy. I was even wearing mom bathing suits and mom jeans. And this is what I look like in my 40s. And I am bragging a little bit because I earned it. Quite honestly, I pay attention to everything I put into my body every day. And that's what I want to get you in the habit of doing with these 5D steps that we're talking about through the course of the 3 weeks of the Endless Energy program. And I want you to remember, I have bad genetics. I told you about this last time. My parents are both overweight, have high blood pressure, diabetes, and I don't have good genetics. It's not like this comes naturally or easy to me. I earned it. But you can earn it too. And you can look better than you ever have, and you can feel better than you ever have. And you can go get a copy of a hard Sally on your wall. So remember again, energy is the most important thing that you need more of right now, because energy is the key to getting everything else you want in life. So whatever your big why is, if you want a big promotion at work, if you want to be able to just walk with your grandchildren down the block, or if you want to go be able to climb a mountain, whatever your goals are, whatever your big whys are, you need energy to do it. And you deserve that energy. I want you to have that energy. So let's jump in with week 2 of the program. So we're going to review first a little bit. In week 1, you learned about the hidden physical stressors that are zapping your energy. And those hidden physical stressors were the acronym CRASH. Remember, CRASH stood for C for cortisol overload or depletion. So cortisol, too much is not good and too little is not good. The R in CRASH was for food reactions. So those are food sensitivities. Remember, reactions your body might be having to foods that you might not even realize you have. The main ones we're going to be dealing with in this program, and the main ones I see, are dairy and gluten, and we're going to be dealing with those in week 3. So that's the C and the R in crash. And then the A in the crash today, week 2, is all about the A in crash because it's all about adrenal toxins. So sugar, alcohol, and caffeine are all adrenal toxins, and we're gonna learn how much is the right amount, how to get rid of the things we need to get rid of today in week 2. So that's the A in crash, adrenal toxins. The S in crash is for the sugar roller coaster. That is a huge part of what's zapping your energy, a hidden physical stressor that you may never have realized you had. You learned a little bit about how to manage the sugar roller coaster last week, so you're already managing it, but we're gonna learn even more about how to get off the sugar roller coaster this week. And the final H in crash is for hormones. So remember, when your body is so busy trying to make cortisol, making too much cortisol, or even if you're making too little cortisol, that's because your body can't make enough to keep up with the demand anymore. And when your body can't make enough cortisol, or it's making too much cortisol, it's sacrificing other hormones in your body, like progesterone, the calming hormone that helps us feel less overwhelmed and helps us sleep better at night. And testosterone, the hormone that helps us with our energy, our memory, our mood, our sexual desire, helps us get fat off, helps us keep muscle on. Who doesn't need more of all of that? So that's crash, right? So crash, we just went over crash. That's the hidden physical stressors that are zapping your energy. And because of crash, because of my identifying these 5 steps, these 5 things that were zapping your energy, that's how I came up with the 5 steps of the program, of the 3 weeks to endless energy program, the 5D steps. So last week you already learned step number 1, which was drink. So you're drinking a protein shake first thing in the morning within an hour of getting up. And I bet you have learned to love your protein shake already because they are delicious and they give you tons of energy. And you also learned to take the supplements that were right for your energy type. So whether you were burning up, burning low, or burning out, you learned which supplements are right for you. You're taking those supplements regularly. And between the shake and the supplements, you should already be starting to feel more energy. And then step 2 was dine. And you learned about dine last week as well. So you learned to eat every 3 to 4 hours. Doing that helps even out the sugar roller coaster already because you're not letting yourself get low blood sugar because you're eating more frequently. And then you're concentrating on the makeup of your meals. You're making sure to get at least 20 grams of protein with each meal. You're getting the right amount of fat, the right amount of fiber, and that is all helping you keep your blood sugar more stable, keep your energy up. So remember to use your Endless Energy food guides if you need any suggestions, or you can print them out and take them to the grocery store with you so you know exactly what you should be eating on this program. Today, we're ready to dive into steps 3 and 4. So step 3 is to ditch sugar, and step 4 is to diminish alcohol and caffeine. All right, now, whoa. Before you get all freaked out, like, Dr. Jen, are you kidding me? You've already got me doing this shake, and you've got me doing supplements, and you want me to eat differently, and now you want me to get rid of all of my vices? Okay, I know it sounds like a lot, but the good news is I've been through all of this. I told you, I'm a sugar craver. Both of my parents are diabetics. I am genetically a sugar craver, so I know what it's like to crave sugar. I've been down that road. We're going to talk about the addiction to sugar a lot today and really give you strategies that you can use that are going to help you just sail right over it. I'm telling you, I've gotten so many of my patients off of sugar. I've gotten myself off of sugar, and it's amazing what happens when a bite of an apple tastes so incredibly, ridiculously even sweet because you're not used to eating sugar anymore. I've done it, and you can do it too. And then alcohol and caffeine, don't freak out completely because I'm not telling you have to give it all up, right? I said diminish. That's the key word. So we're going to cut down on these substances if that's what you need to do. And we're going to talk about how much is too much and where you should be with that. All right. So before I'm going to get you to make any of these changes, I have to tell you why. Well, the reason is, and the reason I kind of dump these into the same category is because they're adrenal toxins, which means that they're substances that stress your adrenal glands, okay? So when you have caffeine, when you have alcohol, your adrenals, there's an increased stress, if you will, a hidden physical stressor, a demand on your adrenal glands for cortisol. So these things, sugar, alcohol, well, sugar and caffeine specifically, those will lead to some energy, but then we all know the energy crashes. And then if you keep using these things over time, you don't have the same reaction that you used to, right? You develop a tolerance. So if you do a lot of caffeine, I know that you've already developed a tolerance, and you know what I'm talking about. It takes more and more caffeine to get the same bump. And I have lots of people who tell me all the time. I had a guy in my office just yesterday who told me, yeah, I drink more and more caffeine, but it doesn't seem to do any more over time. And what's happening is, yeah, your body builds up this tolerance and you don't have the same reaction anymore, but at the same time, continuing to use these substances is actually damaging the adrenal glands, and it's preventing the adrenals from being able to heal themselves and being able to make the right amount of cortisol so you make the right amount of hormones. So in this week, we're going to do steps 3 and 4. We're going to ditch sugar and we're going to diminish alcohol and caffeine. So ditching sugar, let's jump into that one first. It is seriously, sugar is it's amazingly shocking what we're learning about sugar these days. The average American is consuming, like the slide says, about 25 teaspoons per day of sugar. So that's like 25 of those little packets, like when you go to a restaurant and you get sugar for your coffee, 25 of those packets per day without even knowing it. And there are tons of people out there who are even consuming upwards of 40 teaspoons a day, 40 of those little packets per day. And they barely even know it. And why? That's because sugar is hiding everywhere. Everywhere. It is just freaking amazing where you will see sugar. So you may not realize it, but sugar's in ketchup, sugar's in salad dressing, sugar is even in hamburgers and hamburger buns. If you can believe it, it is actually just freaking everywhere. People think granola and granola bars are good for them. Almost every granola I have ever seen has enormous amounts of sugar in it. So why is that? I mean, we think of granola as health food, but it's not health food. So that's what I talk about as it's like the Whole Foods effect. You think if you get it in a health food store or if it's organic, you think it's automatically good for you. But that is something that I have seen so many people, even people who know a lot about nutrition, fall prey to. They think because it's organic that it must be good for them and that it can't have anything bad in it. Well, what about just organic dried fruit? The dried fruit tends to have a lot of additional sugar. And even the sugar in the fruit itself can be high in sugar. So you've got to watch out for that. So whether the sugar is coming from honey, molasses, dates, you can make it as organic as possible. It's still sugar. And it still counts toward those teaspoons of sugar. So let's talk about how much sugar really should you be eating. So the World Health Organization and the American Heart Association came out and said that we should only be eating 6 teaspoons a day, as opposed to that 25 to 40 plus that most Americans are having. We should only be consuming 6. And considering it's hiding everywhere, that's a challenge, actually. So now what I want to do is I want to convert the teaspoons into grams, because what you're going to see a lot more on food labels is grams. And today I want you to start paying a lot more attention to food labels. So we talked about it last time in terms of protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Now I want you to look a little further down on the label to where the sugar grams are. That's going to be something really important in our talking today. And I also want you to look at the ingredients of sugar, and we'll get to that in the ingredients list, and we'll get to that in a minute. But first I want to kind of blow your mind, okay? Coca-Cola, just one can of Coke has 43 grams of sugar in it. That's almost double what you're supposed to have for the entire day. All you get is 25 grams for the entire day. And one can of Coke blows by that. Or here's another example. I'm constantly trying on Jonathan, my son, and Lexi, my daughter. Jonathan's 14, Lexi's 12. I am constantly on these kids to teach them about these hidden sugars because I want them to know before they leave my house what they're up against, really. And for instance, my son, we were in Starbucks the other day, and he was like, "Mommy, I want that Tropicana orange juice." And I was like, "Well, how much sugar does it have in it?" Because I always ask the kids to check the label. So he goes, "Oh, it's only 22 grams, Mom." I'm like, "Well, 22 grams. You only have 25 to eat for the day, so 22 is not so good. But tell me this, how many servings are in the container?" And he says, well, it says about 2. So there were 2 servings of orange juice in the container. It was one of those like 16-ounce containers. So approximately 8 ounces of orange juice has 22 grams of sugar. But if you consume the whole 16-ounce bottle, which is a small bottle, it's not a huge bottle of orange juice. If you consume the whole thing, you're up to the same as the can of Coke, and you've totally blown through your sugar allotment for the day. And I know this blows people's minds. They're like, "Really? I can't even believe it." And that's because we're being completely duped about sugar. And I'm going to get to a little bit more of that in a second. But then I want to tell you about Cliff Bars, right? Cliff Bars are supposed to be healthy. They show the picture of the guy climbing the mountain on the package. Well, you know what? That's the only people who should be eating Cliff Bars. People climbing mountains, because Cliff Bars have 22 grams of sugar in them. So people are eating a Cliff Bar for breakfast or for a mid-morning snack, and they're blowing through their entire sugar allotment for the whole day with the one darn Cliff Bar. So no way should you be eating a Cliff Bar as your snack. So now, why this whole thing about sugar? What is the connection between sugar and cortisol? And what's the connection between sugar and your energy? Why am I telling you all this? And why do I want you to control your sugar? Why is that so important? Well, here it is. Sugary food spikes your blood sugar, right? And when blood sugar spikes, insulin goes up. Insulin's a hormone that helps sugar be shuttled into your into your cells, not just your blood cells, but the cells of your body, like your muscle cells, to help you make energy. So your body makes energy from sugar, and insulin helps the sugar get to where it needs to go. The problem is, way too many people in our society, so let's say 1/3 of us are diabetics now. Is that crazy? Well, way more than that have what's called insulin resistance, which is a step, like a lot of steps before diabetes happens, we get insulin resistant. Well, probably more than 50% of us are insulin resistant. So what happens is you make too much insulin. When your sugar goes up, you make way too much insulin, so insulin goes way up. And what happens from there? What goes up must come down. So your blood sugar crashes. That leads to your energy crashing. And then what happens? So then what happens is actually even worse. Your adrenals see the low blood sugar as an emergency situation. Remember, I told you your adrenals are there for emergency situations, for crisis. And that's exactly what happens. When your blood sugar feels low, when you get that shaky feeling or sweats or just irritable and mean, like some people get really irritable and mean when they don't eat well. My Adam and my daughter Lexi, they have pretty sensitive blood sugar, and I can always tell when they haven't eaten, because Adam gets irritable and grumpy and Lexi gets like whiny and tearful and stuff like that. So look out for your own cues. You know, what does your body do when it needs sugar? Because you will see something's happening. So what happens is your adrenals kick in. They release cortisol, because cortisol will help bring your blood sugar up. That's one of cortisol's jobs, to bring your blood sugar back up. So what does all that mean to you? What it means to you essentially is, remember, cortisol is your get up and go hormone. Cortisol, you need it for energy. So what's happening is you're spending your cortisol allotment. Like I always tell people, think of cortisol as kind of a bank account where you have low funds. So you're spending what little money you have in that bank account, you're spending it on dealing with low blood sugar when you need it to deal with life, to deal with all the normal stuff in life and all the stuff you want to deal with in life, this stuff you want to do, your whys, right? So you are wasting your cortisol, i.e. your energy, on dealing with low blood sugar when it's something you can so easily avoid. So what I'm saying is the high sugar diet leads to low energy. It leads to higher cortisol demand, and it leads to low energy. It's zapping your energy. And all of this is just coming from this sweet food, this processed food, and it comes from carbohydrates too. So you might say to yourself, wow, I don't eat much sugar, Dr. Jen, so big deal. But some of you don't eat a lot of sugar, but then you're a carb craver, right? Do you crave carbs? Do you love bread, pasta, potatoes, rice? That's all a pretty quick way of your body getting sugar. They break down to sugar really quickly in your body. So they spike your blood sugar just like sugar does, really. And the dangers of sugar are so well documented now. You know, a few years ago, a lot of scientists were accusing the scientists talking about how bad sugar was. There were other scientists coming back and saying, oh, you're crazy, it's not so bad. But you know what? Now we totally know. Sugar increases the risk of heart disease. Of course, it increases diabetes. And the scary thing now, if you've read the book Grain Brain by David Perlmutter, well, David Perlmutter was the first one who told me about what they're calling now type 3 diabetes, sugar on the brain. Sugar causes Alzheimer's disease. So sugar is rotting our brain, sugar is rotting our heart, sugar is rotting us from the inside out. And if I can't get to you any other way, sugar cross-links collagen. That means sugar causes wrinkles. So we've got to get rid of sugar. So what are we going to do? Just stop eating it? Yeah, that's a lot easier said than done. And why? The reason why is because sugar is totally addictive. It is so incredibly addictive. It is as addictive as heroin and cocaine. Yes, sugar is as addictive as the most addictive drugs on the planet. And you know who doesn't want you to know that? The food industry. Because you know what? They've hidden it everywhere. I mean, I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm telling you, there seriously is a conspiracy to get us addicted to sugar at as young an age as they can, and then keep us on it. And keep us on it and keep us on it and keep us on it and keep feeding it to us because we're addicted to it, so it's easy. It's totally easy to feed it to us and to get us to keep going back for more and more and more. But it's killing us. It's causing increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's disease, all of those things. And if that wasn't all enough, it's killing your energy. You need to get control over your sugar addiction. So let's talk about addiction for a minute. Why are we addicted? Well, we're addicted to sugar for the same reason we're addicted to pretty much anything else. And addiction is something that I know something about. I've definitely been addicted to sugar in my life. And I told you about my Jell-O pudding cups, and those were artificial sugars. So you're not only addicted to sugar, you're also addicted to those artificial sweeteners. Because remember, artificial sweeteners are 200 to 400 times sweeter than sugar. So the artificial sweetener business keeps the sugar addiction going, probably even worse than the sugar addiction itself. I'm not even sure which is worse. People ask me all the time, well, Dr. Jen, what should I do? Should I have sugar or should I have artificial sugar? And I'm like, I'm sorry, just neither one, because both of them are totally addictive. And it just doesn't work to go back to the things you're addicted to, especially if you've gotten off of them. And so I started to say addiction is something I know about, and I will share with you my addiction story, which is an ongoing story for all of our life, because addiction is all about plugging up holes in your life, things that maybe not going as well as you want to in your life. So maybe you don't have the relationship you want, so it causes you to sit down and eat a pint of ice cream. Or maybe you just got in a fight with your spouse and that causes you to eat a candy bar. Or maybe you're addicted to something else. Maybe that causes you to have a couple of drinks. You want to just get drunk and forget about it. Or maybe it's fights with your kids. Maybe it's your in-laws acting crazy, and maybe it's overwork. Maybe it's every day you go in there and your boss berates you and you get home and you've got to have a few drinks to unwind, or you've got to have a pint of ice cream. So all of these things, all of these addictions are filling up holes in our lives. And I keep leading up to this addiction story. I guess I'm holding off because it's hard to talk about. I started smoking when I was only 13 years old. And I know everybody's like, Dr. Jen, you smoked? Well, so it's worse than that. So I started at 13 grubbing cigarettes from my dad because he was a smoker. So that was kind of the easiest way to get them because they were around the house. And that's way back when they used to have cigarette machines everywhere. So I used to go to the mall and sneak them with my girlfriend. And by 16, I was smoking pretty steadily. And from probably 18 to 28, I smoked a pack a day every day for 10 years. And when I was 28, I finally kicked the habit. I finally quit. And I stayed off cigarettes for a really long time, for a good 13 years. And then I was out with some friends and we were having some drinks and they were smoking. And I said, well, what could it hurt? I could have just one. Of course, you know where that wound up. Just one leads to waking up the next day and wanting another one, and then buying a pack, and then getting re-addicted to cigarettes and having to quit again and again and again and again. And so cigarettes is an addiction that I have struggled with in recent years. And I know it's shocking and it's terrible. And you're like, Dr. Jen, how could it be? You're all about health. You're telling me all these things I need to do to be healthy. Well, you know what? I don't know. I'm not perfect. But the thing that I learned about addictions and cravings through quitting smoking is that cravings only last just a couple of minutes. So one of the most important things we need to do when we're addicted to something, so if you're addicted to sugar and you're going to be trying to get off sugar, this is what I want you to really keep in mind. I want you to, instead of being reactive and just reaching for the candy bar or reaching for the pint of ice cream, I want you to get really grounded and really centered and stop the mind chatter. What I mean by getting grounded and centered is really getting mindful, meaning stop the mind chatter and be really just present in your body. Just concentrate on your breath for a few minutes. Feel yourself breathing. First of all, breathing like that just totally relaxes you. And a lot of times when people are craving their addictive substance, it's because they're anxious. So breathing like that will calm you down. And getting really present in your body where you are in the moment, it kind of quiets all the rest of the stuff that's bothering you, whether it was the demanding boss or the spouse that you just had a fight with. Like for me, when I get in a fight with Adam or when my kids are really overwhelming me, I just say, excuse me a minute. I go in a quiet space. I sit in a special chair and I just take some really nice deep grounding breaths. And you know what? The craving for whatever it is that you're trying to fill a hole with will pass. And it will pass quickly when you really do this strategy. So I know I spent a lot of time on it, but I think it's something that's so important that so many of us struggle with. And I appreciate you listening to it, and I'm glad and I hope that strategy helps you and serves you, because now I'm going to tell you how you're going to get rid of sugar, what you're going to get rid of. So the first thing I want you to get rid of is I want you to get rid of all the white foods in your life. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about crackers, cookies. I'm talking about, well, everything white except for cauliflower. Let me just back off and say that, because cauliflower is one of the greatest foods ever. If you don't like cauliflower, you've got to get into it. It's awesome. So the white foods you're going to ditch, though, are white rice, white bread, potatoes, pasta. All of those white, bland colored foods I want you to get rid of those foods because those foods convert to sugar in your body so quickly. And then we're going to also deal with the other hidden sugars. So you want to try to get rid of processed foods as much as possible. Like the packaged cereals totally have tons of sugar. Even granola bars. I don't want you to rely on granola bars for your snacks anymore. And sauces, jam, all of that has lots of sugar in it. So what's the next step? I want you to go right after this webinar. I want you to go through your pantry. I want you to look at every single label. If it has more than 6 grams of sugar per serving, I want you to ditch it, toss it, or donate it. Do something with it. Give it to somebody who can use it, but not you. And don't get fooled by the serving size. Remember the thing I told you about the orange juice with Jonathan, my son. The food companies, I'm sorry to be sound so suspicious again, but they're very tricky. So they will say it has 6 grams of sugar, but then it's 6 grams of sugar per serving, but the thing has 10 servings in it. So you have to be super careful with that. And if you're capable of eating just the one serving, that's fine. Like personally in college, I remember I used to keep a pack of Oreos in my room and I could eat just one Oreo and stop. And that's not that bad. I mean, I'd rather you not eat Oreos, and I don't eat Oreos anymore. But my point is, if you're like a big Oreo eater and you can just eat one, cool, great. But I had a lady in my office yesterday who said, no matter what I have in the house, if it's there, I will eat it till I finish it. And if that's you, know yourself. And the very first thing I told this lady is you just can't bring it in the house. So you can't bring it in the house. And the other thing is you have to start reading the ingredient label. So you have to start reading the ingredients and what's in it. And if sugar is in the top few ingredients, you've got to get rid of it. You've got to get rid of it. Get it out of your pantry, get it out of your house. And then you've got to know the code names for sugar. So these are some of the code names for sugar, and I've got more of them in your Get Sugar Smart guide in your membership site. So log on to the membership site, get the Get Sugar Smart guide because it's got a ton of information for you about that you're really going to need when you're going through your pantry item by item, because there's a ton of code names. Basically, sugar masquerading as something else. They'll call it molasses, they'll call it honey, fructose, and let's talk about high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is probably one of the biggest things killing Americans these days. It's one of the most common ingredients in our foods. It's an extremely cheap sweetener that is made of corn, and the government actually subsidizes the farms that grow corn. It gives them money to grow more corn, and sometimes they give them money even not to grow corn because they've got too much corn. It's insane. So the corn is extremely cheap, extremely easy to come by, and they make this high fructose corn syrup, which is incredibly addictive, just like that. Forget cocaine, it's like crack cocaine. It's insanely addictive, and it gets our kids addicted to sugar from a really young age because it's in so many beverages and so many foods. Don't eat it. If you see it on the label, just get rid of it. And find out more in that Get Sugar Smart guide, okay? So I started talking about beverages just now, and I warned you about Coke and everything. So one of the biggest ways, and I told you about the orange juice, so one of the biggest ways that we're getting tons of sugar in our diet is from the beverages that we drink. So you've got to really go out of your way to get the sugar out of your beverages. So I know you're saying to yourself now, so Dr. Joan, what am I supposed to do? Just drink water? I don't like water. I know. You know what? I didn't like water either. I learned to drink water when I was pregnant with Lexi because I had low fluid around Jonathan, and I was determined with Lexi not to have low fluid. Well, I will tell you something amazing happened when I learned to drink water. So I basically learned to drink it just by, one of my patients asked me this just the other day. So how do I do it? He's a veterinarian, and he was like, I just don't do it. I know it's good for me. I should do it. I'm going to drink water while we're talking about it. He said, how do I get myself to drink more water? And I said, really, in the beginning, you kind of just have to force yourself. That's what I did when I was pregnant. And so the amazing thing I was going to tell you about was, well, not only that Lexi came out healthy and she had enough fluid around her for the whole pregnancy. That was awesome. But the other thing that was incredibly cool was I had headaches every day of my life from high school till when I was pregnant with Lexi in my 30s. And I know for sure now that it was dehydration. because when I get dehydrated now, I get a headache. But I took Excedrin every single day for more than 15 years just because I wasn't drinking enough water. So I know there are people out there who say, oh, that 8 to 10 glasses, it's not true. You don't need it. I disagree. I acknowledge the controversy, but I totally disagree. And I also agree you can drink too much water. But I'm telling you, if you're not getting your 8 to 10 glasses a day, start now. So, okay, how do you make water more appealing? So one of the things that I love to do on the weekends is I take a pitcher of water, I cut up a cucumber, I cut up a lemon, I throw them both in the pitcher of water with some ice, keep it in the refrigerator, and then over the whole weekend I have, like, I call it, my daughter Lexi and I, we call it spa water. We love drinking our cucumber and lemon infused water because it makes us feel like we're at a spa. But you can do that with any fruit. You can do it with watermelon, you can do it with kiwi, and if it's too much trouble to do that, check out Hint Water. I met the woman who created this Hint Water, and I was just amazed. You know what? She did it for her kids because she wanted her kids to drink more water, and the kids didn't want to drink water because it was boring. So she came up with fruit infused water, and she put it in bottles, and you can buy it now. And so it's just fruit infused water. There's no added sugar. It's totally good for you. It comes in still, it comes in sparkling. It's awesome. But you can do it yourself. And then the other thing that I'm totally addicted to is tea. Here's my cup of tea right here. Teas are amazing. They come in every flavor under the sun. You can do like a berry tea, and then if it's hot out, you can put it in the fridge and you can have iced berry tea or whatever kind you like. And some of my favorite teas, Yogi is my absolute favorite. One of the biggest reasons why is because they have this little thing. I call it like a fortune, but it's kind of like a fortune cookie, but they have inspirational sayings. This particular one says, appreciate yourself and honor your soul. And I love that. I just get my little moment to myself when I make my tea bag to look at my little saying and kind of set a nice intention. It's a nice little break for me in the day. And so those are some other options for you for beverages. So you won't have trouble finding great things to drink. And remember before I told you about the artificial sweeteners? 200 to 400, my slide says 300, but it's even 400 times sweeter than sugar. It's insane how sweet these things are and how it keeps that sugar addiction rolling. So if you need a sweetener, now I told you I'm a sweet craver, so I have figured out some things that I could do because it's not like I can live without sweet for the rest of my life. So stevia is one option. Stevia is a plant-based sweetener, but even better in my opinion is Lo Han Guo. I introduced this stuff to Dr. Oz, and he loved it. He thought it was awesome. So Lo Han Guo, it's also called monk fruit. It's a sweetener that's been used in Asia for hundreds, if not even thousands of years. But the really cool thing is it's documented for hundreds of years that in Asia, they use it as a sweetener that helps cure diabetes. Isn't that insane that a sweetener could cure diabetes? But it really does. So that's why you're allowed to use it. It's a sweetener that doesn't raise your blood sugar. It doesn't keep the addiction going. So this one here is my favorite one. You can get it in health food stores. You can get it online. It's by New Naturals. It's called Lo Han Supreme, and it only takes a few drops. So if you were sweetening like a tea, it only takes 3 or 4 drops. And I've even figured out some desserts and stuff that I make with it, and I'm going to share some of those with you. So watch your email because they'll be coming to you. So now remember, I talked to you last week. So, let's recap a little bit. So we've talked about a lot already. So we reviewed crash, the hidden physical stressors. We reviewed the things that you did last week. You started with drink and dine, and now we're working on ditching sugar. We talked about the fact that you are probably now eating 25 teaspoons of sugar a day, and you need to go down to 6 teaspoons or 6 grams of sugar in each thing that you eat. So I want you to look in your pantry, empty your pantry of anything that doesn't have 6 grams or less of sugar per serving. And you want to look for sugar by all its hidden names, okay? So those are the main takeaways, because sugar is zapping your energy and you need to get off the sugar roller coaster. So we talked about addictions also and how important addictions are. And one of the biggest things to realize with an addiction is when you're craving something, what's your cue? And we talked about this last week when we talked about habits. What's your cue? So an example, here's another example. My daughter, she bites her nails. I talked to her about it. I said, this is a habit, and this is a habit that you can change. So let's talk about how you can change it. So I said to her, what do you feel before you bite your nails? And she had a hard time with that. She's only 12, but she had a hard time with it. And really, she said, I'm just bored. And so I just put my fingers in my mouth. So I said, okay, the next time you're bored and you put your fingers in your mouth, instead of biting your nails, I want you to just do this. Just change the behavior. That's what the most important thing is. So when you have the cue, you need to change your behavior. So when you're bored or when you're craving sugar, I want you to take a moment and think about the fact that you need to change your behavior. So what do I want you to do instead of eating sugar? I want you to do it with me right now. Jump out of your seat. I know you're not going to be able to see me so well now, but I want you to do something physical. So let's do it right now. Let's do 10 jumping jacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, sit back down and close your eyes. And for a moment, just focus on how you feel now in your body. I don't know about you, but I feel a buzz of energy. I feel totally energized from that. And that's a natural energy. That's an energy that's going to stay with you and not cause you to crash and burn like sugar will. So the next time you're bored, hungry, craving sugar, do something physical. Get up and do 10 jumping jacks. Just imagine how great shape you're going to be in if you do that 10 times a day. And that's changing the behavior, which is going to change the result, which will change the sugar habit. All right. So next, I want to teach you some other little tricks and tips that you can use when you're ditching sugar. So one of the biggest things is to avoid those processed foods. Remember, the food industry has the processed foods laced with sugar, artificial sweetener, sugar by a zillion different names because they know you're addicted to it and they want to keep you addicted to it. Don't be controlled by sugar anymore and don't be controlled by the food industry. Another thing, probably one of the most important things to prevent yourself from craving sugar is don't skip meals. I get it. I know you get really busy and people tell me all the time, I forget to eat. And it happened to me just the other day. So I know what it's like. But you know what? You've got to prepare for that in advance. And one of the best ways to be prepared is just to keep some nuts with you, some almonds or some walnuts, or if you know you're going to be on the road and you know you're not going to have time to eat, keep some walnuts or almonds with you and eat like 12 almonds or walnuts. That'll help keep your blood sugar steady so that you don't crash and your energy doesn't crash. Some more tips for you. One of the funny little trick questions that I ask my patients is, when is the last time you eat in the evening before you go to sleep? And most of them, trying to give me the right answer, say, oh, I don't eat after 6 p.m., Dr. Landa. No, not at all. And I say, no, wrong answer. I actually want you to eat a little something before you go to bed, especially if you wake up in the middle of the night, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and then you're a restless sleeper after that. So many people have that. And you know what that is? Very frequently, it's low blood sugar causing your cortisol to rise at the wrong time. And the best way to avoid it is to have a little something to eat before you go to bed. So a few apple slices with a little bit of almond butter is a great thing that will help keep your blood sugar stable through the night and has helped so many of my patients get to sleep and stay asleep. So if you're having trouble sleeping, give that a try. And the next time you wake up in the middle of the night, notice, are you feeling hungry? Are you feeling shaky? Do you feel a little shaky, a little sweaty? Anything like that, those would definitely be signs that you have low blood sugar in the middle of the night. Also, fiber. Fiber is huge. Make sure you're getting fiber in your diet and use your fiber powder in your shake, because fiber helps you stay full longer, it helps you hold on to sugar longer, and it helps keep your blood sugar levels more stable throughout the day, keeping you off the sugar roller coaster. And if you're totally just jonesing for some chocolate, which I know how it is because, like I said, I crave sugar. So if you're totally jonesing for something sweet, some dark chocolate. Now, if you're not a big dark chocolate fan, I'd start off at 70%, and that's referring to the amount of cocoa, 70% cocoa, which means there's less room for leftover stuff like sugar. But then if you like 70% already, see if you can challenge yourself and move to 80 and 85%. The 85% by Green and Blacks is my absolute favorite. I love that stuff. And you can have an ounce of dark chocolate per day. And remember that cocoa is so good for you. Now, I know dark chocolate has some caffeine in it, and we're going to talk about caffeine, but the amount you're going to be eating is going to be very small. So it's not really going to contribute to your caffeine load. So I want to remind you again to go into the Endless Energy membership site, log on with your membership credentials to get your Get Sugar Smart Guide, and take that Get Sugar Smart Guide with you when you clean out your pantry, when you go to the supermarket the next time. I want you to take it with you so that you have all the information you need, the code names of sugar, how much sugar you're allowed to eat, all of that stuff, so that you get on the road to ditching sugar. Okay, now we're going to talk about caffeine. I know that you're probably addicted to caffeine. So caffeine addiction is real, just like sugar addiction. It's yet another addiction. We get addicted to caffeine and we can't get off. Caffeine, so why is that a problem, right? Caffeine, it triggers the body to make adrenaline, and that adrenaline rush is addictive. That adrenaline rush is all about a whole bunch of chemicals that get released in the body. Adrenaline is just one of them, and there's a whole bunch. The problem with it, though, is that caffeine does a number on your adrenals. Caffeine has been shown in studies that it causes your adrenals to be more stressed out. And if you already have a low adrenal reserve, if your adrenals aren't doing too well, if you're burning up or you're burning low or you're burning out, your adrenals aren't doing well, and the last thing they need is something to kind of keep punching and kicking at them, which is what caffeine does. And when your adrenals really are burning low and burning out, you'll notice caffeine doesn't really have the same effect on you that it did before. You build up that tolerance to it. And that's especially when you want to quit using caffeine, because it's not doing you any good, number one, and number two, it's actually doing you some bad. It's actually hurting your adrenals. So whether you're burning up or burning low or burning out, caffeine is not helping you. It's not your friend. So if you're burning up, caffeine's going to cause you to make more cortisol, which is going to cause you to have anxiety, irritability, feel more tense. So I always tell my patients with any anxiety to get right off of caffeine. That's important. But then even if you're burning low or burning out, caffeine is going to worsen your energy state. Caffeine is going to kind of suck that remaining adrenal reserve out of your adrenals, and it's going to beat the adrenals. It's going to hurt the adrenals. It acts like a toxin. So it's going to decrease your chances of adrenal recovery, and that's the last thing that you need. So other things that caffeine shows is caffeine shows a reduction in cerebral blood flow. That means caffeine basically causes your blood vessels to shrink down, and that's blood vessels throughout the body. So caffeine causes higher blood pressure, and in your brain, it causes a decrease in your oxygen, the ability of oxygen to flow throughout your brain. So if you're not getting oxygen to your brain, you're not going to be able to think as clearly, and you're not going to have anywhere near as much energy. You know, I know there's a lot of controversy about coffee. Everybody says now there's so many studies that show, oh, coffee's good for me. I should drink coffee. Well, you know what? Coffee is good for you in some ways because coffee is a flavonoid. So coffee has good plant chemicals in it that are antioxidants. They help protect you. But you know what? So do blueberries. So does cocoa. I've talked about cocoa a number of times and what a strong antioxidant it is. So coffee is good for its antioxidant properties, but the caffeine itself has really not been shown to do us any favors. When caffeine wears off, for one thing, you feel twice as tired as you did before the caffeine. So that's certainly not helping you. Another thing they showed is that people who are really hyped up on caffeine, they may be faster, but they make more mistakes. They actually did this study where they had people type before caffeine and after caffeine. And they showed that the after caffeine people typed faster, but they made a lot more mistakes. So if you're drinking lots of caffeine throughout the day, you may be working faster, but not necessarily smarter, because you might be making more mistakes, and that's not helping you get anywhere any faster in the end. And keep in mind that regular caffeine intake has been linked with things like strokes because it causes higher blood pressure and things like heart attacks. So regular caffeine intake isn't so good for us. So I want you to start quitting coffee or Diet Coke or whatever your source of caffeine is. I want you to start kicking the habit. Now, don't panic. I'm not telling you have to give it all up right this minute or all at once. But I'm telling you, I want you to cut down slowly. So if you're drinking a 16-ounce coffee, let's say, then just stop shy at 14 ounces, meaning just leave 2 ounces in the cup and chuck it. Okay, same thing if you drink a 12-ounce coffee now in the afternoon, maybe cut it down to 10 ounces. And then the next day, go at it again. Cut it from 14 ounces down to 12 ounces so you can order the next size down. And then cut it from 10 ounces to 8 ounces. Maybe you can get that really small coffee. And keep cutting down, because the thing about this that shouldn't be too painful is if you are drinking your protein shake, if you're taking the supplements that are right for you, whether you're burning up, burning low, or burning out, if you're dining the way that I've told you you need to dine in the program, and if you start to get off the sugar roller coaster by ditching sugar, your energy is already going to be much better than it was when you started just a week ago. And that's going to make it possible for you to cut down on caffeine without it really bothering you. And you might even notice that your energy might start to get better as your adrenals start to repair themselves. So cut back slowly. And the other thing is to find the substitutes. You know, one of the reasons that you might drink coffee is just because you like the break. So switch over to tea. Remember my tea, my yogi tea that I love so much with my little nice saying on it. So this is a great way to take a little break, and green tea, or tea in general, only has a third the caffeine that coffee does. So if one way to cut down on your caffeine really nicely is to drink tea instead of coffee. Another choice is to have hot water with lemon or herbal teas. Those are other great choices as well. And remember, for your sweetener, use low hung guo instead of sugar. So again, I want you to identify your caffeine cue. So what's your caffeine cue? Are you just low on energy, or do you need a break? Well, here's something you can do. Yet another physical activity that I want you to learn, that when you get that cue, you're bored, you're tired, you feel like you need a break, I want you to stand up at your desk. Again, you're not going to be able to see me that well when we do this, but I'll describe it to you. So I want you to stand up with me now, and you might need to hold onto a chair or hold onto a table. But what I want you to do is I want you to take both of your hands, and I want you to start at your ankle, and I want you to start patting your ankle. And then move up your body to your calf, to your knees, to your thighs, and then do the same process on the other leg. Start at the ankle, move up to the calf, then your knees, then your thighs. Then start patting on your kidneys and your adrenals. And then I want you to start at your hand, your left hand, and pat up your arm to your shoulder. And then switch to your right arm and pat up your body to your right shoulder. And then do some gentle taps on your head. And then sit back down. And again, I want you to close your eyes. Take a deep breath. and concentrate on the feelings and the sensations in your body. Do you feel a buzz? I do. I feel a great buzz when I do that. That's an awesome Tai Chi sort of technique that I learned at a conference once, and it was an amazing thing for me, because now if I'm feeling a little tired, a little bored, a little restless, I get up out of my seat, I do that little technique, and it gives me energy. And it's something you can do instead of drinking coffee. So you have the same cue, but you change your behavior to change your result. So give that a try next time you're feeling like you need more energy. Now, I'm not saying you can't use caffeine strategically, so to speak. I will use like half a cup of coffee sometimes before I go on stage to do a live lecture. I feel like sometimes it gives me a little bit more alertness, a little bit more vitality, perks me up a little bit. So I'm not saying don't use it strategically, like for an interview or for a specific thing, but don't rely on it on a regular basis, because it's not doing your adrenals any favors. So now we're going to talk about diminishing alcohol. So again, I didn't say you had to quit if you love your alcohol the way that I do, because personally, I love wine. I love red wine. I just came back from New Zealand and I have fallen in love with Sauvignon Blancs. They're awesome. So I'm not saying I'm certainly no teetotaler, believe me. I love my alcohol, but I definitely have noticed that that alcohol can cause me to start burning up, or if I'm already in a burning up state, it can definitely cause me to start going into that burning low state. So let's talk more about why, because alcohol causes a stress on the adrenals. Yet again, alcohol is an adrenal toxin. So alcohol intake leads the adrenal glands to release cortisol, if you're able to release a lot of cortisol. But if you're burning low or burning out, the alcohol is just putting the demand on the adrenals, and your adrenals aren't able to keep up with it. So it's not doing you any good at all. And then on top of it, it's decreasing your adrenals' ability to make cortisol. So it's making the whole situation even worse. And this is all scientifically proven. Studies have shown that people who are heavy drinkers, and by heavy drinkers, by the way, I'm talking 3 or 4 drinks a day. I'm not talking ridiculously heavy. You know, a lot of people don't really have any concept of what heavy drinkers are anymore. And so in this study, it was 3 to 4. There were a couple of studies I read, and 3 to 4 drinks a day is enough to suppress your body's ability to make cortisol. So in other words, when there is a crisis, your body can't make cortisol. It can't keep up with stress. And that's from chronic alcohol use. So alcohol just puts you in this deeper energy rut. And you know what? I've gotten into this situation. It happens to me sometimes, especially if I've had a couple of glasses of wine at night. I know that 3 drinks is just too much for me. I'll get in bed, I'll pass out, and then 3 a.m., I'm like wide awake and I can't fall back asleep and I have a miserable night. And of course, the time when I finally want to go back to sleep is at 7 a.m. when it's, time to wake up. And then what do I do to wake myself up? I get the coffee out. And so I've definitely fallen into this cycle, but it's a bad cycle, and it's one that can rapidly mess up your adrenals. So you know what? I love a glass of wine just as much as the next person in the evening, but we can't let that turn into a cycle. So how much is too much? So if you weigh between 100 and 150 pounds, 1 drink, 1 to 1.5 drinks is really enough. And so what do I mean by a drink? That's another thing we have to think about, because I know people like the wine glasses are, getting bigger and bigger. And so people fill them up more and more. But a glass of wine is really 4 to 5 ounces. So you should be measuring that. And that's what I do. I have these glasses that I know how far I can fill it up. And that's 4 to 5 ounces. And then because I love to have a glass of wine with dinner. So I have my glass of wine and then I'm done with it. Now, believe me, I have my days where I'm overwhelmed and the kids are stressing me out or work was stressing me out, and I am so tempted, and sometimes I do give in and have that second glass of wine, but I know that I may be paying for it, and I just want you to know, because you may not even realize that you're doing this to yourself. And so if you weigh over 150 pounds, no more than 2 glasses. No more than 2 glasses. And by the way, same goes with vodka or scotch or any other hard alcohol. Those, you want to keep it to 1 shot of alcohol, and a true shot. Measure it out. Okay, don't just pour. So some tips to get you through week 2. I really want you, I say this all the time, I ask you to close your eyes, tune into how you're feeling, feel your body, take a nice deep centering breath, and really tune into the sensations in your body that you're feeling as you wean off these adrenal toxins. You're going to start feeling better and better. And some people take it for granted when they start feeling better, they don't even notice it. But pay attention, like 2 to 4 p.m. when you used to feel that lull and you wanted to take a nap, you were craving a nap. Are you feeling like you don't need the nap as much anymore? Are you feeling more energetic maybe around 6 p.m. when it's time to make dinner or clean up from dinner? Are you feeling more energetic then? Now, I know you may have some cravings, but I want you to remember, I told you about cravings. They only last 3 minutes. So close your eyes, tune into your breathing, get really centered, shut off all the mind chatter, and maybe do a physical activity. Do the jumping jacks or do the little padding technique I taught you. You've got lots of strategies now to deal with it. Stick with getting rid of the toxins, and I promise you, you are going to feel more clear-headed. Your energy is going to keep getting better and better. And I want you to keep up your inspiration. It's so important to remember your whys. So for me, my whys are being more patient for my kids, showing up as a better wife, especially in the evening, not turning on Netflix as my standby, but having more intimate time, and having more calm energy, not burning up all the time and being overwhelmed and spazzed out, but having calmer energy to be more focused, more grounded. Do more yoga, because you know what? I know when I am more grounded that I don't suffer from addictions as much, because being spiritually grounded helps fill some of those holes that we feel that we're trying to fill with addictions. So get grounded, start practicing that, and just go back to your whys. No matter what your why is your why just to be able to walk down the street with your grandchildren? Is your why to have enough energy to climb a mountain, to do a 5K, whatever your why is, to show up better for your spouse, your partner, your kids, whatever your whys are. Write them down, keep them with you, keep them in your purse, keep them on your refrigerator, keep them in mind all the time why you're doing this. It's so important. And keep that picture with you, a picture either of you from a time when you had great energy, or a picture of something that the energy represents to you, like a great vacation that you're going to be able to take that you weren't able to take before because it demanded too much physical activity, or a race that you want to do, a picture of somebody coming through the finish line. Keep a picture around, a visual of what you're working toward, and build a support network. You need support when you're getting rid of any habit. So especially with the ditching sugar one, you have a lot of well-meaning people in your life who can unknowingly sabotage you by being really nice and bringing you a gift, bringing you some fresh baked cookies. So let people around you, friends, coworkers, let them know what you're doing. Let them know that you're ditching sugar, and tell them not to bring you sugar. Also, look forward to what hurdles could get in your way. So if you're going to a place where you know you're going to be tempted to drink, well, number one, maybe just don't go. But number two, another thing to promise yourself, and like I said, I like my alcohol too, so I use this personally. I force myself to have a big glass of water after I have a drink. Another thing I'll do, and people have seen me do this at restaurants, and they're like, oh wow, that's such a good idea. So I'm probably a little bit high need from servers, but so if you're a server, I apologize. But I will ask the server sometimes if they'll serve me half a glass of wine with my salad, and then the other half a glass of wine with my entree, so that I don't wind up having more than a glass of wine, because I know me, if I have it in front of me, I'm going to suck it down so quick. And I know a lot of people who are like that, so I know you might be like that too. So this is a great way to slow you down. Another thing to do is you can promise yourself, I'm going to have half a glass of wine, then I'm going to drink a big water or a big club soda in between. That's another good way to slow you down. And if it's just kind of social pressure to drink, just recently I was at a conference and all of my friends, believe it or not, doctors like to drink. And some of my friends were like, what are you drinking, Jen? What are you drinking? What are you drinking? And I'm like, I'm good. And then you know what? I had to have took the waitress aside and I said, please just bring me a club soda in a short glass with ice and a little straw and a lime so it looks like I've got a drink. And you know what? It worked just fine. Nobody knew the difference. And I was happy drinking my club soda so that I didn't wake up in the middle of the night and have a miserable night of sleep from having too many drinks. So use some of those tricks, and if you're going out to eat, you know what? It doesn't have to be that complicated. You know, a piece of grilled fish, a piece of grilled chicken, and vegetables is pretty much, they have that everywhere. Just, you know, ask them to keep the sauces on the side. And one of the big things to get used to is hold the starch, give me double vegetable, because that's more than likely to give you a good the amount of carbohydrates you need if you eat a double serving of vegetables without those simple carbs, those white, you know, potatoes and rice and all of that. Or maybe you can get a small serving of complex carbs like the black beans or a little bit of brown rice. I would love to hear from you about your recipes that you're coming up with for this plan, for this system. I told you I'm not a great cook. I need recipes. For me, recipes, it's like chemistry, you know, and I'm a doctor, so I took chemistry, and you just follow the directions. But I'm not that creative with it. I need somebody to help give me direction. So if you figured out some amazing recipes that kind of adhere to the plan, I would love to hear from you. So I'm so happy that you were here today to learn more about ditching sugar and diminishing alcohol and caffeine. Remember that picture of hard Jen from the beginning. The reason I showed it to you was to show you what is possible. I'm 45 years old. I'm in better shape than I've ever been in. I have better energy than I've ever been in. And I know you can do it too. You can do it. And not only that, you deserve it. And that's what I want for you. So stick to the plan. Go get them. Let me know if you're having any trouble on Facebook. I want to hear from you. So jump on Facebook, introduce yourself, tell me if you're having any problems, get some support. Wishing you the best of great health, great happiness, and of course, amazing energy. See you next week.